The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual guests. If you're a sensitive snowflake that may get easily offended, then turn this off immediately. If you want to hear the real truth about the gun culture, then stick around. This is the Armed Citizen Podcast. What is going on, my Ghost Squad? Welcome to the Armed Citizen Podcast Live. This is episode number 170. Today's date is Tuesday, December 8th, 2020. My goodness, I'm trying to give another month ahead of us, but we're December 8th, 2020. We are live as always on YouTube and on Facebook. If you're out there in the live chat, go ahead and say hello. We don't know if you're out there unless you say something. If you're new to the channel, new to the show, go ahead and tell us where you're at and all of that. We'll try to get you a shout out throughout the show. If you have a question that you want to ask myself or anyone on the panel, go ahead and tag one of us, and we'll make sure we get those questions answered. If you want to text or call into the show, yes, you can call into the show. The number is down below. It is the Ghost Tactical Hotline presented by our good friends Rod and Shelly Gates at theguncleaners.com. That number is 530-364-4678. If you are a veteran, or anyone really, but especially a veteran, if you are having a tough time, especially during these holiday times, and you need someone to talk to, always feel free. You can give me a call 24/7. But if you need someone, maybe anonymous, please contact someone. The Veteran Crisis Hotline is 1-800-273-8255. And as always, we want to bring up the United States Marine Corps. Being a Marine, it is great to have them on board. But if you're interested in becoming a Marine, please go check out their website, www.marines.com. Speaking of Marines and veterans alike, pinned up there on the top of the chat, as you can see, especially on the YouTube side, tonight, I'm not asking you guys to send super chats, but if you do, we always give them to a veteran organization. But tonight, all super chats are going to go towards organization. Okay, I gotta say it's right. Operation Gratitude. And what they are is they are a DoD approved charity contribution organization that puts together care packages and will get them over to the deployed troops overseas in time for Christmas. So all donations tonight will go towards Operation Gratitude to send care packages over to our deployed troops overseas for Christmas. We want to send a big shout out to them as well. I know what it's like being overseas during Thanksgiving and Christmas. And it's, I'm not going to say it's terrible, because you're still going to have fun and all that, but it's different. You're not around your family. You're around your other family. But, you know, it's one of those that we just need to remember that there are people out there that are standing on that wall, doing their patrols, and they are there to protect us, protect our way of life so that we can be here celebrating the holiday season with our families. That being said, tonight we have a special guest. Before we bring him in, let's say hello to our, basically let's call him our co-host at this time, but down from the great state of Texas, the tactical leprechaun himself. What is going on, Clover?
Yo, this is going to be fun.
It is going to be fun. It is going to be really fun. Before we bring in our guest, or a couple of super chats, I want to go ahead and say thank you. The Poor Conservative is $5. I'll get it started. God bless our troops. God bless you, Poor Conservative. Appreciate you. And then Gun Loving Grandpa with a $10 super chat says, God bless the troops. So as always, I will be donating all the money from tonight to Operation Gratitude tomorrow. And as always, I always put receipts up there on social media so you believe that I actually do. And I actually will cover all of the taxes that YouTube takes out of the super chats. So if you raise $200, instead of giving $100 and taxes go towards $100 to YouTube or whatever they call it, I'll cover the other. So the full 200 or whatever we raise tonight is going to go to Operation Gratitude to send care packages to the troops. If you're interested in that organization, go check out Operation Gratitude. Each care package that they send over has a value of stuff between $45 and $100, depending on where they're going and what those troops have asked for. And some of a lot of stuff, gift cards are huge. It sounds crazy, but if they're using satellite hookups and all of that, they sometimes have to pay for internet to call home or pay for a sat phone to call home. A $25 gift card, they put those in every single care package. I think it's really, really cool to use a gift card for. But anyways, enough of that. Thank you for the super chats. Keep them coming. It's going to a great cause. But tonight, we've got someone that I'm very interested in learning from. We had a discussion a couple weeks ago on prepping and prepping for beginners, which I would consider myself a beginner. We're prepared in some ways, and then I'm a complete newbie in others. And one of the channels that I watch and have been watching, kind of learning to figure out different things between food and supplies and how to do certain things, is Alaska Prepper. So we're very happy to have Alaska Prepper. What's going on, baby?
Hey, how you doing, man? Thank you very much for inviting me.
Hey, no problem. And, I know that it's like 4 o'clock, something like that at your time right now. So thanks for joining me during the middle of the day. I know it's kind of a weird time change, but I really appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem, man. I actually just got done doing a food run for the food bank over here. So I was like, I have to get home so I can do this live stream. But no, it's actually very nice for this time of the year. It's only about 0 degrees outside, and usually this time of year is in the negative. So
I mean, it's all relative, right? I mean, I guess, it's only 0. So I know that there are places that can get like -50 at times. So, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Shout out to Israel Chavez. Israel's his first time watching the show. What's it all about? Hello from Texas. Tonight we're talking prepping. And so we've got an expert here on prepping. And we're going to have a really, really good time talking about this. And I know that Clover is probably a lot more prepared than I am, but I think compared to AP, we're both newbies at this. So we're both excited about talking with AP. So Clover, do you have anything that you want to start out real quick? Once again, out there in the chat, if you have any questions for any of us, tag us and we'll make sure we try to get those questions asked. But Clover, do you have anything you want to start out with?
Yeah, I mean, since we've got a professional in the building, right? Let's start from the basics. Is kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, excellent.
I mean, how does one get into it? Is it going to be more a mindset issue to begin with, or do you just kind of look around in your cabinets and your barns and garages one day and figure, hey, I got some extra stuff here that could be of benefit. Maybe I need to start getting more.
Well, let me start out by saying that, everyone is a prepper, whether they acknowledge it or not. Being prepared is just having a backup for anything, right? Really. And if you think about it, 100 years ago, 120 years ago, the word prepping didn't really exist because it was just a way of life. 100 years ago, if you had a failed harvest, where during that time, about 95% of the American people were farmers. That's what they did. So if they had a failed harvest, they had to have a backup plan in case their harvest failed. That way they can eat through the winter and be able to replant again next year. So, people were prepping back then. They just didn't call it prepping because it was a way of life. But we don't have to take it to extremes. What I like to tell people about prepping is that first you have to realize one thing. If you realize one thing, you will be motivated to be better prepared. And that is this. That is that when there is a crisis, be it a regional crisis, meaning that it takes up like the East Coast or the West Coast or the Midwest, or be it a localized crisis where maybe it's just in your town, or be it a systemic crisis where it envelops the entire country or the entire world. There's really no one that you can count on except for yourself and your family. Okay. So the bigger the crises, the less people you can count on. Sure, if there's a localized crisis where maybe there's, fires, in one community, sure, the rest of the communities in that area can come together and help. But what if it's a bigger crisis? What if it's something like what's been going on for the last several months, where you're not sure whether you're going to find what you need at the supermarket, whether you're not sure if you're going to have a job next month and be able to pay your bills. I got an email from a subscriber not too long ago that said, "Thank you very much. I've been prepping for the last year after I found your channel, and I lost my job 6 months ago. I haven't had to worry about food for 6 months. And the money that I had in savings was enough to get me through paying my utilities and my mortgage and car payments and all that stuff. But they didn't have to worry about food. Why? Because they had that part of their lives prepared for. They prepared for a time when food may not be available to them. And in this case, food wasn't available to them. It wasn't because the stores completely ran out of food. It's just that they needed their money to spend for other things. And having that food really made it a lot easier for them to go through their own personal crises, right? So once you realize that government is not going to take care of you, trust me when I say that, government is not here to take care of you. And in all actuality, that is not the job of government. The job of government is not to take care of us.
Taking care of us. We shouldn't want the government to take care of us, you know?
Exactly. And that's one of the points that I try to, relay to people, is that when you rely on someone to take care of you, you're going to have to give up some of your sovereignty for what they have to give you. So why would you put yourself in a position where something bad happens, whatever it may be? It's not the end of the world. I don't prepare for the end of the world. I told someone once, if I knew that the world was going to end next week, I'd be partying it up. I wouldn't be prepping. Why would you prep for that, right? I prepare to make sure that my family and myself can continue to have a normal standard of living during times of crises. And one of the things that does for you is it keeps you out of danger. I was not fighting people over toilet paper during the toilet paper shortage. I had plenty of it. So I didn't have to go to the store and knock an old lady over the head for a pack of toilet paper. I had plenty of it. I was watching that happen, from my computer at home while people were fighting, right? So why put yourself in a position where you have to give up some of your control, some of your personal sovereignty and freedoms to someone else because they have something that you need, because you did not have the forethought to prepare ahead of time? So first of all, you have to realize that you need to be prepared. And the best motivation for that is two things. Your family. If you have kids, do you ever want to see them go hungry? And the second thing is your sovereignty. Think about this. Let's say you're a firearm carrying person. You're a person that likes firearm. Am I allowed to say gun on this channel? I know YouTube doesn't like that.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I know. I try to be respectful of other channels whenever I come on. I don't want to mess with
mad at you. We're gonna get mad if you don't say gun.
So think about this. Let's say you're a gun carrying person, right? And you did not prepare, and there's no foods in the store, right? This may be extreme, but it's happened before throughout history, and it will happen again. All right. Mm-hmm. Let's say there's no food in the store, and let's say there's a government truck down the street giving out food. But before you can get food for your hungry kids, you have to give up your gun. Think about that. You're giving up your freedoms when you accept something from someone else because you are willing to do what they're telling you to do for that piece of bread. So that's the main point. That's one of the biggest reasons why I like to be prepared, because I do not want to give up my freedoms and the control over my life because I don't have something that someone else needs, right? And I mean, from one military person to the other, right? I'm retired Army. So from one military person to the other, we went and fought so that we can have these freedoms that we have now. Why give them up? Because we decided that it was better to purchase a 50-inch or a 75-inch flat screen TV than to put away a little bit of sustenance and just everyday things that you could use in the case of shortages. I like to tell people that, when they go shopping and when they buy something, try to purchase things with your wealth, purchase things that add value to your life instead of purchasing things that don't add value to your life. So I like to encourage people to do a thought experiment, which is sit in your living room and look around. Make believe that the electricity went out and it's never going to come back on. Look at that flat screen TV. How much value does that flat screen TV have now? That you know you're never going to have electricity again. And I know I'm being extreme, right? But I'm just trying to get people to get your juices flowing, right? So you can understand how much value does that have. There's nothing wrong with having a flat screen TV. I have one. But before I got that flat screen TV, I went out and I made sure, as a man, as a husband, as a father, I went out and I made sure that my family is going to have what they need, just in case something happens where I cannot provide for them the way that I can provide for them now. All right. So that's the first step, is you have to acknowledge that you should be prepared. More people that are prepared in the United States, the more people that are prepared, the better that it is for you and me. Because if, for example, you lived in a building of, let's say, 40 tenants, right? Let's say that you lived in a building where there was 40 families living, and you were the only one that was prepared, and something bad happened. Who's going to come knocking on your door, right? Now, if you lived in a building of 40 families and all 40 families were prepared, you're all good. You guys can now start to think about the next things, like security, like maybe patrolling the neighborhood to make sure that nothing bad happens during certain times of the day. So it gives you more flexibility in what you can do, and it gives you more control in what you can do because you have the things that you need. So, taking that first step out of the way is acknowledging that you need to be prepared. Then I always start with food and water. And the reason I always start with food and water is because we all need to eat and we all need to drink. If you don't have food and water, it doesn't matter how many guns you have. It doesn't matter how much ammunition you have, unless you want to be a marauder, and that never ends well, right?
No.
I've come across some people that say, well, I've got guns and bullets. I'll just go out and take what I need. You may get away with it for a little bit, but eventually you won't. So why do that? Not only is it a moral issue, but why do that when you have the opportunity now? Sorry about the dog. Why do that if you have the opportunity now to prepare yourself for what may come in the future? And you know what? The worst thing that can happen if you're prepped, worst thing that can happen is that you have to use your preps. But the best thing that can happen is that you never have to use them, right? That's the best thing that can happen. If you're prepped and you have so much food or whatever you may have, and you see that it's coming to an expiration date, you have two options. You can either rotate your food and eat it, or you can donate it to a food bank somewhere. Okay, those are the worst things that can happen. So there is no downturn, in being prepared. So I like to tell people to start with food and water, because there are many facets to preparedness, and food and water is something that everyone can acknowledge and agree that they need. And what I tell people to do is this: make a list of what you have in your pantry. So, I'll pick a few different things that everyone can relate to. If you eat 1 pound of pasta a week as a family, then you know that in order to have enough pasta to last you a year, you need 52 pounds. So what do? You jot that down on a piece of paper. You go to your pantry and say, well, I have 10 pounds of pasta right now. Guess what? You need 42 pounds of pasta to add to your preps so that you can have enough pasta for a full year. All right?
Right.
Same thing with everything else. If it's a can of corn, same thing. That was my son. If it's a can of corn, same thing. If it's a can of Spam, same thing. Right. Okay? And do a little bit of research. Understand how long foods actually last. Because what we've been taught throughout the years is that once that date is 1 day past the best buy date, you need to throw that food away. And that's just not the case. Okay? If you go to the USDA's website, there it tells you, and a lot of people may not believe this because we've been so indoctrinated. In the USDA's website, it tells you that a can of food will be safe to eat indefinitely unless the can is damaged or unless the can has lost its integrity. So if you have a can of corn, let's say, or a can of Spam, let's pick Spam because everyone likes to, say that preppers love Spam, which I love Spam. But let's say you have a can of Spam. And there's nothing wrong with that can. That Spam can be 10 years past its best buy date. And as long as that can still has its integrity, as long as when you open that Spam, it smells right, it looks right, and you taste a little bit and it tastes right, it's good to eat. So a lot of people have that misconception that, well, I'm not going to prep a year's supply of food. If I don't go through it all and rotate it all, it's just going to go to waste. It's really not. If you do a little bit of homework and understand that foods will last a lot longer than what the best buy date says. So, trying to make it as short as possible, make my answer as short as possible here in regards to food. It's as easy as inventorying your current pantry, knowing what your family likes to eat, and start with 1 week's worth of extra food, and then try to build it up to a month.
Right.
And I think that 1 year of food storage should be the minimum that everyone strives to accomplish, as far as having, enough food to feed your family for a year. And
if you strive for a year, but you only get 6 to 8 months, you've still got 6 to 8 months, and even throughout 6 to 8 months, you can add to it if you have to. Yeah?
Yes, absolutely. Some people get discouraged when I say a year. I used to say just try to get 1 month or 3 months, but now I'm sticking to a year because I feel personally that in the future we're going to need that food storage. We're going to need it. And a lot of people think that you have to go out there and buy long-term food storage from a third party, like your freeze-dried foods and stuff. Those foods are great to have. But what I always say is, instead of spending that extra money on those, I call them luxury items or novelty items, when you start out, get your basics. Get the food that you eat, that that you like to eat, and then learn how to put them away for long-term. If not, keep them in your pantry and make sure that you rotate them at least a year's worth.
Yeah, we've got a question out there. We're going to come to you here in just a second about that same thing. But before we do, Mystic out there, Mystic Guns sends a $5 super chat thanking support the troops. Honcho Fed out there, Pro Patria Vigilance. Stay safe and thank you for serving the United States of America for the $20 super chat. Appreciate you. And my homie Gunfighter 27 out there, $49.90. That must be on Apple because they take that 1 cent from them. God bless our troops, and as always, Semper Fi is a fellow Marine as well. So thank you so much. Once again, all super chats going towards Operation Gratitude to send care packages to deployed troops overseas for Christmas. It's going to be a great thing to do. But there was a question out here that I thought was wonderful, kind of going into what you were saying about, okay, so we started the prep and we started getting the food, the water. Rice is a great one. Rice will last for 20, 30, well, we don't even really know how long, but at least a good 20 years. So, but rice, stuff like that. But they're wanting to know, and it was Hans out there over on the Facebook side. Let me put this up here. It says the box stuff, Patriot Supply, etc. What is the best place to store that kind of stuff to make it last? A shed outside or in a more of a climate controlled environment?
Is he talking about like dried foods like rice, beans, or like long-term food storage from a third company?
He didn't say. It just said.
Okay, well, I can cover them both. I can cover both of those. That's too easy.
The box stuff.
Okay, so you want to make sure that any kind of long-term food storage that you have, in addition to any pantry items like pasta, like rice, like beans, like canned goods, any of that, if you store it in a temperature control room where the temperature ranges between 50 degrees or 55 degrees Fahrenheit, no higher than 70. That's my rule of thumb. The USDA says 55 degrees to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, but I try to keep my things 55 to 70. And what you want to remember is that you won't, only because it can go to 70 degrees from 55, you don't want the temperature change or the fluctuation in temperature to be rapid. So you don't want it to go from 55 degrees to 70 in 1 hour. If it's a slow temperature change with a maximum of 70 degrees and a minimum of 55, maybe 50 degrees, I wouldn't let it go lower than that. It's going to last a long time, a lot longer than what it says on the can or the package, to tell you the truth. I've stored, let me see, I think the oldest can of meat, just a second. Son, can you please take care of them? I don't know if you can hear my dog, but they're going at it over here.
No, every now and then, but it's nothing big. I've got a German Shepherd that likes to come in and destroy stuff during the show, so it's all good.
So I think the oldest jar of processed meat that I have in my pantry is a jar of beef that I pressure canned. I think it was in 2012. And I had several of them, and I actually opened one of those this year just to see how it was. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. And it was actually very good, very tasty. I'm saving the last one so that I can open it at the 10-year mark. But that's a jar of meat that I processed myself, 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. However, I've always made sure that my pantry, my prepper pantry, always maintains a temperature between 55 and 70. So the lowest that I've ever seen it get in there is about 58 degrees. And the highest that it's ever gotten in there is about 68 degrees. So
now is
the better,
is it inside your house, or is this a basement or a separate building, or do you have it situated in a room or something inside your house actually?
Yeah. When I built my house, I built that pantry. I put that pantry in my house. And what I did was I put the pantry in the part of the house that is the coolest, and that's the farthest away from the sun. And I made sure that I didn't put any windows in there, and I super insulated it and I sealed it very well, knowing that was going to be my pantry for, my 1 year supply of food. However, I don't want to discourage people. I don't want people to think, well, I have to build a pantry. No, you don't. A closet will work. Many people don't understand a closet can hold a year's supply of food for one person. My pantry is only about 72 square feet. My pantry is 72 square feet. One of the walls, it's got a slanted ceiling. So one of the walls goes up about 9.5 feet. The short wall goes up about 7.5 feet, but it's 72 square feet. I've got a year's supply of food in there for 4 people. And I would venture to say that I have more than a year's supply of food in there for 4 people. So, if you have a closet that you're not using, stack it up with food storage. Put cans of food in there. Put whatever you eat in there. I don't like to tell people what to store. Store what it is that you eat, because you're the one that's going to eat it. If you don't like rice and beans, for goodness sakes, don't store 100 pounds of rice and beans. I love rice and beans. So I have a lot of rice and beans put away. I like it. But if you don't like it, don't store it. I've heard so many people say, when I review something on my channel, they're like, I'm so glad that you reviewed that, because I bought 4 cans of that a year and a half ago and I haven't tried it. I'm like, why are you buying 4 cans of something that you don't even know whether you like it or not? If you're going to try something new, buy one, try it. If you like it, you know that you have the go ahead to go buy as many as you want, because you know you're going to eat it.
I want to bring Clover in real quick, and do you have anything that you want to add or continue on a different line here, or what do you want?
Well,
anything you want to bring up?
On the storage thing, yeah, I mean, cool, dry place is that's just a standard thing, right? But a lot of people don't know the details of that. I mean, dry obviously can't be soaking wet. But when you say cool, that means in Texas, that means something different than Alaska. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So, yep. You're right.
So people get confused there. Not squelching hot, not freezing. Temperature wise, on a thermometer outside would be considered the cool range, right? So you're absolutely right in that. I agree with you on that. The issue that I have when you talk to people about storage is you hit the nail on the head with rotation. I think rotation is something you need to monitor and you need to keep an eye on. You get stuff you already eat, right? You get stuff that you're going to eat on a regular basis. You keep that year supply, that 6 month supply, whatever you settle on. That different people are going to have different needs because they're preparing for different situations. Once you have that, then you rotate that. You consume the stuff that's getting closer to that date, right? But in the event that the plugs do get pulled, right? And people lose electricity, I know what I've got in mind for storage in a non-AC, non-heater, non-electric environment. But with a situation like that, I mean, I'm assuming you're in Alaska, right? Um,
Yeah,
you're going to be really different than me in Texas. So can we talk about what the options
sure,
would be to keep the food storage once climate control via electricity is not an option?
It's a
sure.
great
Well,
one.
I mean, if we're talking about regular pantry items, okay, and even long-term food storage, that food is going to be good in a year, even if the temperatures get high.
Okay.
Okay, if we have an electrical outage that lasts over a year, we are in a lot bigger trouble than trying to figure out how we're going to keep our food between 55 and 70 degrees, right? So, for example, if something like that does happen and I have a year's supply of food, my main concern, being that I live in Alaska, is to try to keep warm enough to survive the winter. But if I lived like in Arizona and Texas where it gets hot, I wouldn't be concerned about my food storage getting hot because I know that I'm going to consume that within a year anyways, and it will be good for a year. What you want to do is you want to make sure that your food storage mainly, aside from temperature control, mainly that it is well sealed, and that it is not in direct sunlight. Direct sunlight will damage your food, and if it's not well sealed, what will happen is that humidity will get in there, and then it will inhibit bacterial growth, and it will start ruining your food. But as far as keeping, your temperature control in a crisis where we lose electricity for a year, I would not worry about the temperature in that room. You would have a lot more things to worry about besides the temperature in that room. And I am very, very confident that your food, let's say the average temperature is 90 degrees. I'm sure that your food will last 1 year in those conditions. What the temperature does is it degrades the amount of time that your food will be good for. So instead of your food being good for 5 or 10 years, maybe at 90 degrees, your food will only be good for 2 years. And when I say good, I mean where it will still maintain most of its nutritional value, right? It will still be safe. If your room gets up to 90 or 100 degrees, it will still be safe to eat if it was properly packaged, when packaged in the factory, or if you did it yourself at home, but maybe it will have lost some of its nutritional value. However, in a crisis situation where you need food, the biggest thing that you need is calories, fat, carbohydrates, and those foods will maintain their caloric value. They may lose some nutritional value as far as vitamins and minerals, but they will maintain their caloric value. So, as far as keeping it, at a decent temperature, uh, during regular times, during normal times, like now, I guess you can say kind of like now. Yes,
Yeah.
it's optimal that you keep it at a regular temperature that your food's not going to get too hot. But if it comes to where your food is getting hot above what's recommended because of a crisis of that nature, then you really don't have to worry about that because your food is still going to be good a year after the crisis begins. I hope that answered your question. I hope it made sense.
I think you might have a follow up. Clover, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, I mean, so yeah, I mean, I agree that long without electricity, we're dealing with big problems. Stranger
Yeah,
things can and have happened throughout history, though. And so at that point, we revert back to what you were talking about when this first started was kind of the old school way of doing things, right? So
right.
people are going to have to be familiar with, they've got that year's supply. You're going to have to start trying to grow food. You're going to have to start trying to do
Absolutely.
your hunting. You're going to have to get your smokehouse. You're going to have your root cellar. You're going to have to learn to can.
Right.
You're going to have to do other things. So what around here, one of the popular things to do is in a barn in a covered area so that you negate sunlight, you negate the heat of the direct sunlight on the ground. People take, and I mean, you could get old chest freezers that
Yep.
people are throwing away because they're broken and bury those right up to the
Yes.
lid, right?
Yes.
Leave the lid exposed. That way, if hopefully it's in an area that doesn't flood, but that way, you don't risk it becoming flooded, right? Is that a good storage solution, worst case scenario, let's say, storage solution?
It is. It's all you're doing is man, I always forget the name. I always forget the name of where you put your root cellar. All you're doing is you're making a makeshift root cellar by doing that, and that's a great solution because many people don't know that. I believe it's for every 2 inches of foam insulation is the equivalent of the insulating value that you get with about 5 feet of dirt. So
really?
you putting a chest freezer there. A chest freezer, for people that may not know, is insulated with foam insulation. So depending on how thick your door and your sidewalls are, it's going to have about 1 inch to 2 inches of foam insulation. So that's effectively burying it underground, I guess you could say, about 4 or 5 feet. And that would work. And depending on where you do live, and if you don't have to worry about flooding, even if you don't have a chest freezer to bury, you can actually dig a hole, 7 or 8 feet deep into the earth. And let's say put your emergency food or put a cache in there with food in a plastic barrel. And I've never really looked into this, but I've heard and I have read that 7 feet below ground nets you a temperature of about 57 degrees. And pretty much no matter where you are, unless you're in a really, really hot environment where it's hot all year long, like a desert environment where it's hot there all year long, if you dig down about 6-7 feet below ground, it's going to net you a temperature of about 57, 58 degrees all year long. So that's a great solution. And I think that's something that, bringing that up, that's good, because a lot of people probably never heard of doing that. But yeah, you're just doing a makeshift root cellar. And if you can build a root cellar, man, that would be even better. That would be great.
Bernie out there saying nobody's speaking about vitamins in storage. Is there a value to that? And I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, there is. And I want to touch on something that you were talking about earlier, about having a lot of carbs and calories in the food that you're storing, and why that's important. And I can tell you from my experience in the military, we're going through some different survival schools and cold weather schools, and through SEER and all different things that I kind of went through. Your body, on just your normal body, can last about 10 days to 2 weeks without food, because what happens after a couple of days, it starts feeding off of the fat stores up in your body, and it feeds off that. You can't go as long, obviously, without water. Water is much more important than food to survive. But if you have those heavy carbs, heavy calorie food stored up, what you'll be doing is you'll have those carbs, those sugars, and everything else inside. So if you do have to prolong from eating, you will be able to survive as far as a dietary way. Now, vitamins, I'm assuming, would be wonderful. So even if you're not able to eat as much, if the only thing that you have access to is a stream, would you at least you have water? You can drink water. If you're taking vitamins, you can survive. You'll lose weight. You won't be the healthiest or the strongest, but your body will get at least a multi-day or something. It will get some nutrients that it desperately needs to stay functioning. Now, functioning versus being active and all that are two completely different things.
Right.
But if you want to stay alive and stay functioning, yeah, I would say that vitamins are something that everyone should be taking anyways. But I would say that vitamins have got to be on that list of things that people want to maybe store a little bit of. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. And, there are many facets of prepping. So food is just one. Food and water is one. And, first aid, medical, I would put vitamins, with like medical or first aid, because if you have a good store of preps, then you should have enough food that have pretty good amount of vitamins in them already, Right. However, yes, absolutely. And, as I like to tell people, if you think that you need to store vitamins, then store vitamins. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's not going to hurt. If you think you need to store it, store it. And like I said, it's got several facets. Like, we can talk about a little bit of water. Like, people ask me all the time, how do I store water? And I asked them, what are you going to do when the water runs out?
Yeah.
So, I always like to encourage people that in addition to whatever water storage they have, that they have a quality water filter, because
Mhm.
if for some reason you run out of water, it's usually not very difficult to find water. It's just difficult to find water that's potable. So if you
Yeah.
have a way of turning water that you find somewhere into water that you can drink and cook with, then you're good to go, because you cannot store enough water for a year unless you have a swimming pool or something like that, or you
Now,
live
it's
by a lake.
interesting to bring up. Potable water is obviously important, but isn't there probably a need for non-potable water? I mean, in that kind of scenario where the lights have gone out and all that, maybe storing rainwater in a jug or something like that. I mean, just anything and everything. But I
Yeah,
would say that non-potable is just as important as having potable, and you can do that
yeah,
just by sitting a barrel in right underneath your gutter or something. Just collect water
that's
into
right.
a 50-gallon jug or something.
Yeah, I'm a very big advocate of water, water collection, rainwater
Mhm.
collection, because that water that you have there on a normal day, you may not use it for drinking. You may use
Right.
it for your garden. But
Mhm.
on that day where something happens that you do not have access to water and you need it to live, you have your water filter. And and the water filter is just an easy way of cleaning water. I mean, you don't
Right.
have to have a water filter. I'm a proponent of
You
getting
can
a
boil
water filter,
too.
because there's less work with a water filter. If you want to
Right.
clean water without a water filter, you're gonna have to boil it,
Mhm.
and then on top of that, I even recommend adding some bleach to it after you boil it, just to make sure. With a good quality water filter, guess what? Get some water, clean whatever top dirt there's on it or whatever, filter it through a t-shirt, and you can put it through your water filter, and it's going to be good to go. Just as good, if not better, than the water that you buy in a bottle at the store.
Absolutely. So we talked about vitamins earlier, which I think is an interesting one. But a couple weeks ago, I don't remember, it might have been Clover that actually brought up, but someone brought up the discussion of prescription medications or just over-the-counter medications. Obviously, if you have prescription medications that you literally have to take to survive, whether it's insulin or heart pills or whatever, obviously that could be a strain, a difficulty to get a year's supply of that. But
Right.
when you're talking over the counter, what do you do, or what advice would you give someone both over the counter and prescription that says, hey, I've got to have certain things, for me to function right?
Okay, so for prescription medications, like you said, very difficult unless you know someone. Okay.
Right.
And I believe that the maximum amount that they'll give you for prescription medication, I think, is 3 months. So the
Yep.
best you can do is 3 months.
Sometimes
I
it's
mean,
one, depending on what medication is. Yeah.
yes, yes. So the best you can do is 3 months. I don't know. Maybe some people where they live, maybe is 6 months. I don't know. I don't take any prescription medications, but the number that I hear often is 3 months. So guess what? 3 months is what you're going to have. And if we have a
Hopefully by then
crisis,
you'll be able to do something else. Yeah.
right? But I mean, if we have a crisis that lasts longer than 3 months, where hospitals and pharmacies and doctors are not able to prescribe you medication that you need to live, to me, it means that we are in the middle of a systemic crisis that is really something really bad. And unfortunately, I hate to say this, but it's like, what would happen? Let me ask you a question. If we lost electricity for a year, what percentage of the population would die? Take a
My honest
guess.
opinion, 25.
All right. So experts from all over the world, they even had a commission in Congress go over this a few years ago. They were talking about a CME, coronal mass ejection, or an EMP, where someone employs a nuclear warhead and blows it up over a certain area in your country, and it gets rid of your electric grid. So experts from all over the world say that if we have the loss of electricity for a year, that up to 90% of the population would die.
Really?
So yeah, you can look that up anywhere. I mean, you can just Google it anywhere, and that's what experts are saying. That's not a number I came up with. Okay.
Right.
So if we had troubles like that, people on insulin, people on medication, heart medication, things like that, it's the unfortunate fact that they probably will not survive. because an event like that, where it's not possible for you to get the medicine that you need, and people are just worried mainly about being able to eat to stay alive, a lot of people will perish, in an event like that. It's not something that a lot of people think that preppers want something bad to happen. No, it's the opposite. We're prepping in case something bad happens, but we never want something bad to happen. It's just like, you've been downrange. I've been downrange. I think that veterans that have gone downrange and have seen the things that they've seen are probably the biggest advocates of peace, because we don't want to see that again. We don't want it to happen. So preppers, people that are actively prepping and that, live the prepping lifestyle, meaning being prepared for anything, we don't want anything like that to happen, but we want to make sure that in case it does happen, that we are prepared. So prescription medications, I'm going to say something right now, and I'm going to go ahead and, before I say it, I'm going to say I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor. Don't listen to what I say. Do your own research. I have heard people say that in order for them to get a good supply of prescription medication is, for example, let's say I had to take heart medication and I needed to take 1 pill a day, that instead of taking 1 pill a day, maybe I would take a pill today and skip a pill tomorrow.
Or cut it in half or whatever.
Yeah, or maybe, skip 1 pill a week. If you skip 1 pill a week for a year, you're going to have almost an extra 2 month supply on top of that 3. So I've heard people say that. I don't advocate that anyone does that, because I don't know, what kind of a medical situation people are in, and I wouldn't want to give them advice that was wrong and cause them to hurt themselves. But that's one thing that I've heard people say, is that that's what they do in order to, have more medication than what they're allowed to have by their doctors. Now, as far as over-the-counter medication, go ahead. You had a question?
Oh, no. I was going to say, Clover was saying something in the back, which I think is a very important point to make at this point, because he was talking about, I'll let Clover bring it in if he wants to, but he was saying part of the prepping thing is preparing, which means living a healthier lifestyle now. Getting your body healthy now to where you may not have to rely on all these different, if you have high blood pressure,
great point. Great point.
Let's get that going now,
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. So like I was saying, as part of the over-the-counter medications, I'm going to go back to the same thing I said with food. What medications do you normally use now? Think back to last winter. Did you have to get some Thermoflu? Because you got a cold? Did you need any aspirin? I don't really recommend aspirin too much, because aspirin does have an expiration date, and it can harm you if you take aspirin that's old. But just a quick pointer, if you ever open a bottle of aspirin and it smells like ammonia, it's bad. All right? So aspirin, once it turns bad, it'll smell like ammonia. So I like to do things like ibuprofen, which I think have a better shelf life. But just look at the things that you normally use. Go into your cupboards. Preparing is not difficult. Being prepared or being a prepper, whatever you want to call it, it's not difficult. It's just extending what you already do to the next level. It's just looking at the things that you already use and adding to those things. And then maybe thinking out of the box a little bit in case something different were to happen. So for example, maybe you've never cut yourself where you needed stitches. Well, you might want to have a stapler, a medical stapler. You can buy it on Amazon for $7 and it comes sanitized and ready to use. And you don't really have to be a medical professional to be able to take a cut, staple it together, wrap it up with a bandage, and then see if you can get medical help so that they can do it right. But it may stop the bleeding. You don't need to be a medical professional in order to understand how to properly administer a tourniquet. I mean, you can get on YouTube. You can get on any channel on YouTube, right, and find out how to do a tourniquet. And, and make sure that you learn how to do it right. I see a lot of people on YouTube saying, yeah, if you chop off your wrist right here, put a tourniquet 4 inches up right here. Well, just a quick hint. There's 2 bones there. There's 2 bones in your lower arm, and if you put a tourniquet on that part of the arm, your artery is going to squeeze in between the bones. You're going to keep bleeding. So just make sure And I'm not trying to give a first aid class here, but just make sure that whenever you're dealing with like medicines or medical treatment or first aid, try to get sources that are reliable, that know what they're talking about. YouTube is great, but do your own research, because if you administer that tourniquet wrong on a family member that needs it, you're not going to be able to go back to that YouTuber that told you how to do it wrong and say, hey, learn how to do it yourself, learn how to do it right. Buy a couple of books or get online and download some books for free about medicine.
Go to a local doctor's office or a hospital. And I know the ones here, the hospital does 2 or 3 times a year, maybe once every quarter or whatever. They do free first aid classes, free to anyone that wants to come to first aid. If you take a tourniquet, if you say, excuse me, I've got a cat tourniquet and I don't know how to use it. I just got this in off Amazon, and you go to a nurse at a hospital. Can someone here show me how to properly use this? They will show it to you on how to use this. So you don't have to spend money, but go learn firsthand. Go take a first aid class. Go take a stop the bleed. Go take a CPR class. Something like that is a crucial. One of the things that they're talking about there is different things.
And whatever.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and whatever you do get, no matter what it is, it doesn't have to be a tourniquet. It can be anything. Use it. Use it and learn how to use it, even if you only do it once. I love to bake. All right, baking. Like I on my channel, I show people how to bake bread. I show people how to make rice. Things like that, because
I love baking.
Yeah, these are skills that we've lost over the year. I mean, the average person does not know how to make rice unless they put it in a rice cooker. Okay, and I tell people, listen, you don't have to do it this way all the time. I teach people how to bake bread, for example. You don't have to bake your bread all the time for your house. All right. I like to do it. It brings me inner peace when I'm kneading that dough.
There's better smell in the world than freshly baked bread in your house. It's not a better smell.
Once you do it and you try it, you're going to want to do it all the time. But what I like to say is, even if it's out of your comfort zone, do it once. That way, if you ever have to rely on it, you know that you can do it. And you have confidence in doing it. Instead of having to learn how to use your gear or how to use skills on the fly when you really need to do it, you can be comfortable in doing it when you really need to do it instead of struggling through it. So, struggling.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, both of us, in military, why we train so hard, okay, and why basketball, football teams practice so hard, the same plays over and over again. Why we train in a workup so hard is that when it's real, you don't have to think, "Am I doing it right? Am I doing it right?" You just react because you've done it so much.
Muscle memory.
Absolutely.
I tell people it's muscle memory. Muscle memory can only come from training. That's the only place you get muscle memory from, is from training. And what that does is it alleviates you from having to think. You will act without thinking, and that's because you trained. And that's why in the military they have you, pull your firearm 1,000 times. Because when you're in contact downrange, you don't think about it. You just do it, and you do it the right way because you've done it so many times. But yeah, and that's what I try to get at is that if you're depending on yourself to administer a skill during a time of crisis, if you haven't practiced that skill before, it's only going to add to your stress level. You're already going to be stressed enough during a time of crisis. So why add more stress trying to learn something new that you have the opportunity and time to learn now? So I always say, do it at least one time so that you're confident that you can do it, and you don't have to wonder whether you can do it when it counts.
Yeah, one of the best things that I like to tell people, and I think what people think prepping is survivalist, and it's not. It's like you said, it's being prepared. But one of the best ways to be prepared, and when we brought this up a couple weeks ago on that last podcast, and it got a great, it's just an awesome conversation. But one of the best things that I can give people, I know Clover will probably tell you the same thing, is, I'm not saying once a week or once a month, but a couple times a year, at least definitely once in the winter, once in the spring, once in the summer, once in the fall, at least once, if you want to call it a season, camp out in your backyard. Teach your kids and your wife how to set up a tent, how to build a fire, how to cook on a fire. Because if you have all of these things stacked up and there's no electricity or no gas or whatever, and you're going to have to rely on cooking and surviving, especially during wintertime around a fire, you need to learn how to build a fire, what it takes to build a fire, especially in maybe wetter conditions, what wood burns longer, what wood burns the brightest, or what wood burns the hottest, whatever. There's different ones. But if you do that once a quarter, so where you know, no matter whether it's wintertime, spring, summer, or fall, your family kind of knows, hey, it's a guys, a wintertime fire. We know what kind of wood that we need to go get for a wintertime fire. And oh, by the way, honey, while we're going to look for wood, we got this one here. Why don't you get that food started real quick? And everyone kind of knows how to not only camp out, live in the wilderness, but also cook with a fire and all that. But I think that's a lot of people don't realize that's part of prepping also, is not just the actual supplies, but a lot of the actual things that you might have to do in those, red dawn, shit hits the fan scenarios, that you have to, there's skill sets that you have to be able to do as well.
Yeah. And, for anyone that's out there that may be listening to this, if you're not in the prepper type of mindset, I don't want to make it sound like it's a really big thing. I mean, it's really not. When you really think about it, if you just get the things that you regularly use on an everyday basis, just start out by getting an extra month. Mm-hmm. Once you do that, you're going to feel a lot better about your situation should something happen. I don't like to get people to prep for the SHTF, right? For if the lights is going to go out for a year or something like that, because that's, that's something that evolves within you as you continue to prep. I like to get people into prepping just with the understanding that, listen, it's just another form of security. If something happens, you're going to be able to provide for your family where others may not, and where you would not have been able to had you not just gotten this form of security. I call my preps insurance. It's just insurance. It's something that you wish you never have to use. But if it's there, you have it to use, right?
Absolutely.
And then what I think happens is that when people start out and they have a month's supply of things that they need, they themselves think, wait a minute, what am I going to do about fuel? And then they ask the question, and I say, well, what I do is I make sure that I have enough gasoline to fill the tank of each of my vehicles at least once. Mm-hmm. So always keep a full tank or a 3/4 or full tank, and then have enough gasoline put away to fill up each of your vehicles one time. But people will start to think about these things on their own, and then they will evolve into being a lot better prepared than just having a month or 2 months worth of food. So that's how I like to ease people into it.
For a generator as well, if that's something that you like. Some people will keep diesel set aside for a generator or whatever. Sure. Absolutely.
Right, and that will evolve within them. They'll start thinking about these. Well, I have a year's worth of food. But what about if the electricity goes out? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get a small generator. They get a generator that can power the refrigerator. They're free. Usually the questions I get is, what size generator do I need to power my refrigerator, my freezer, my lights, my Wi-Fi, things like that. So they'll start thinking about that. And that's how you evolve into being a lot better prepared than just having food put away, because prepping is not just about having food put away. It's like I said before, it's a way of being able to sustain your standard of living. So if tomorrow all of the stores closed, guess what? I have toilet paper. I have water. I have a water filter. I have food. I have medicine if one of my kids gets a cold. I have first aid kits in case one of my kids gets cut. I have all of those things. It's just insurance. If I don't need to use it because a kid of mine gets cut and I can go to the hospital and get him stitches, then I'm not going to use it. But if something happens where I can't, I have it. It's just my insurance. And I like to ask people that are really against prepping. I ask them, I'm like, do you have car insurance? Why? Why do you have car insurance? Well, in case I get in an accident. Do you have life insurance? Well, yeah, in case, I die and I want to make sure my family's taken care of. Well, do you have food insurance? And then they give me the look, like, what's food insurance? And I'm like, all right, let's have a talk,
That's what we're talking about. Exactly. Yeah, it's awesome. Clover, do you want to jump in here and add anything?
Well, are there that many people that are really like anti-prepper, or is it mostly, do you run into that? Like, really rail against it, or is it mostly people that just, they choose not to? And so
I run into both. I mean, I don't personally run into it, but I see it. You wouldn't guess the number of emails that I get asking me for, I don't know, for help in trying to convince their husband or even their wife or their family members, because they think that they're crazy. I remember talking to a person who's, in the preparedness mindset, and they, how they ran out of canning jars here not too long ago. There was like a shortage of canning jars, and she had been prepping, for a long time, as I have also. I mean, I've got about 25 cases of canning jars that I've accumulated over the last year and a half. So, I didn't just go out there one day and bought 25 cases. No, I might buy 2 cases this month. I might buy 3 or 4 cases this month, and I just accumulated them. So she offered to help a friend of hers, or at least a person who she thought was her friend, by giving her a couple of cases of jars because she couldn't find any. And instead of being thankful and receiving the gift and, in a kind way, the person's like, I hate you preppers because you're always hoarding everything. So you do have people like that out there that refuse to prepare, but then want to blame those that did prepare ahead of time for there being a shortage of something. When in all actuality, preparing, a lot of people think that being a prepper is being a hoarder. No, it's not. I can give you the definition. I can tell you, hoarding is a mental disorder where people get attached to the things they have and don't want to let go of them, even though they never use them. That's hoarding, right? Preparing is having things that you're going to use in the future, just having more of them. That's it. You're going to use it. You're just going to have more of them in case they become unavailable. So, and then I also run into people that know that they should be preparing, know that there is a problem in our system, just like we've seen in the last several months, where there's a problem with the transportation and distribution system and manufacturing systems, of food products and other things, around our country. They know this, but they tell themselves, if the day ever comes where food runs out, then food runs out. And I'm like, well, have you thought about your kids? And, there's people like that too. It's called normalcy bias. They think that because it's never it's more really like recency bias. Recency bias is when you think that nothing is going to happen because it's never happened in your lifetime, right? So they're like, well, it's never happened in my lifetime, so it's not going to happen. It's impossible. Normalcy bias is they think that because it's never happened to them, it's never happened. So, I like to give people a good example of what normalcy bias is, and it's, have you ever broken your bone? And they say, no, I've never had a broken bone. So you think that because you've never had a broken bone that you're never going to break one. There's no chance that you could ever break one. But there is. And it's the same thing with anything, right? Only because it hasn't happened to you or hasn't happened in recent history, it doesn't mean that it can happen. And, in all actuality, when people really think about what a prepper is, what's bad about being a prepper? What's bad about wanting to take care of your family and making sure that they have the things that they need in case something happens that disturbs the method or the way in which you're able to sustain your life and their lives? There's nothing wrong with it. Usually those people that have a problem with it are people that are not prepared. Those are usually the people that have a problem, or people that are not prepared, that don't want to take the time and or expenditure of their resources to become better prepared in case something happens. So there's people like that out there, and they're going to be out there, but that's okay. Just don't let it stop you from making sure that you take care of your family. If, I know we're a little over an hour here, but I just want to make sure that people that listen to this,
we got all the time in the world, bro. Okay. We're good.
Make sure, think about your family at the very, very least. Think about your family. If you have a child, look at your child and ask yourself,
look at your child.
Oh my God.
Look at your child.
Go, Victor. Get out of here, Victor.
You're a child. Look at me. What are you asking?
Not this child. Victor, go away. Leave. Oh man, I'm sorry. That's my son Victor. He's the Russian. He's the Russian that's always trying to crash my live streams. Oh my goodness. So like I was saying before Victor interrupted, look at your child and ask yourself, what would you do? You know, in all seriousness, what would you do if your child was starving and you didn't know where you were going to get food? What would you do? A man would do anything. And usually it means that they would do something bad. So why put yourself in that situation just because you don't want to put away a couple months or a year's worth of food? You know?
Absolutely. All right. That means ice. So we're a little over an hour. We're going to continue this on a little bit. But before we do, I want to bring up, for you guys may have noticed, I've got the old Armed Citizen Podcast sweatshirt over at our Spreadshirt store. So what I want to do, I want to give one away to a live viewer out there for Christmas. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do a little trivia question. And the first person to get it needs to email me your size and address and all that. But I'm going to send you an Armed Citizen Podcast hoodie for Christmas from us. And I'm going to put in the private chat real quick the answer so you guys can maybe help me. Look out there. I've got the Facebook and the YouTube. I can see both of my screen. But the answer is going to be there in the private chat for you guys to watch out for. But the question is going to be this. This podcast started about 3.5 years ago, and it was called Tactical Tuesday for the first year. We changed it to the Armed Citizen Podcast at that point. But for the first year, it's called Tactical Tuesday. Who was my very first guest on the very first show? If you know that, put that answer out there, and we will. What's up, Thunder? We will definitely get you a hoodie sent. But who was on the very first show? Who was my first guest? Patriot in the Dark says me. He was the first of the Armed Citizen Podcast, but not there. It is, but not of the first Absolute Tactical Tuesday. Off the X out there says Chris Brown. That is correct. He was my sheriff, or it still is my sheriff, but Sheriff Chris Brown. So off the X. The good thing about that is I don't. It's weird because it's going to be shipped to this same town where it is what it is. But he's a friend of mine here locally. But yeah, Chris Brown was the first guest on the very first live podcast, Tactical Tuesday, 3.5 years ago, 170 episodes ago, which is kind of awesome. But yeah, so Lance, I know, yeah, we'll get together and we'll get you a hoodie. And Patriot out there says he was the first of the Armed Citizen produced podcast. He definitely was the first guest on that. But so yeah, Lance, we'll make sure we get this to you, all this to you. So we'll make sure you find what color you want it in, what size, and all that stuff, and we'll order one up, and it'll be there in about a week. I ordered this last Monday. I wanted to kind of see if people are buying. I noticed a lot of people have been buying stuff from the store, which thank you very much for that. I don't make hardly anything off of it, but what I love is the branding. People are out there wearing the Ghost Tactical in the podcast and different shirts we've made up, a lot of veteran stuff and all that. So thank you so much for doing that. But I wanted to know, like, if someone buys something from the store, is it good quality? Because they're not like sitting in my closet that I have, it's through Spreadshirt. So I ordered a couple of them, and surprisingly, I ordered them last Monday. They came in this Monday, yesterday, and they're actually really, really good quality stuff. So yeah, it is. Andrew says a postal conspiracy. Maybe it is, but it's still got to come from California, even though we're in the same town. The gear isn't in the same town, so it's still got to be shipped. Andrew. JMA says I'll just buy one. Damn it! Well, I appreciate you, brother. So I want to bring Clover in real quick, and is there another topic or anything that we kind of want to finish up on that you want to bring up with AP?
Yeah, I mean, going back to, I guess kind of elaborating on what he had said before about experiencing things, trying things. I mentioned that a couple weeks ago when we talked about this. That you know, in the middle of a crisis, you've got enough stress and things to have to worry about without having to worry about learning how to do something or figuring out how to do something. Not only that, but if you're needing to know how to grow some vegetables or some fruit or whatever, or you're needing to know how to dress a squirrel or a deer, um, something of that nature that you really don't plan to do until, the situation calls for it. Why wait until that situation? I agree with that because at that point, you're likely to be cut off from any information and you're going to have to kind of figure things out. If you do that now, and maybe you don't hunt now, but go hunting one season, right? Take that squirrel, take that deer. You can hit the internet, right? You could literally text a buddy. You could, a buddy that may live in another state like we all are here, online. You can get advice. You can get tips, right? You've got the world at your fingertips, literally with your phone or computer or whatever. But in that bad situation, you're not going to have that. So take advantage of all the amenities, I guess, you have now because knowledge is power, right? And in that situation, you want to already have the knowledge of exactly how to do that. You don't want to try to learn as you go.
Yeah, if you're out there, Hans is over there on Facebook, and in my messages, I see messages from YouTube and on Facebook. So when I put a message out there, it goes to both platforms. So he's probably going, who the hell's he talking to? So if I answer somebody on YouTube in the chat, it also gets posted on Facebook and vice versa. So I apologize for that. Go ahead. I'm sorry, AP.
Oh, no, I just wanted to say something before I forget because I'm kind of senile sometimes. But, we've been talking about preparing for a little over an hour, getting this and getting that. And I know that you're a gun channel, which is awesome. Make sure that you have a way to protect your preps. Because I am a huge advocate of self-defense and the Second Amendment. And if you get all of these preps, all you're doing, and you don't have a way to defend them, all you're doing is prepping for the toughest guy on the block.
Yep.
So make sure that you get a way to defend yourself and your family and your preps, because in defending your preps, you are defending the well-being of your family and yourself. Because without those preps, what's going to happen? How are you going to get your sustenance? How are you going to get the things that you need? And the thing that I really, really like to encourage is that you don't have to get 1,000 guns.
Right.
If you can only afford one, get one. And if you can afford to get 10, get 10. Right. But make sure that you train with that firearm. Make sure that you train with it. Make sure that you get to know it inside and out, that you can learn how to at least field strip it and clean it. You don't have to be a gunsmith, but at least learn the basics, get a good holster for it, get plenty of ammunition for it, get plenty of magazines for it as well. So, that's one thing that I think it's very important that people don't understand, that when people are desperate, they take desperate measures. So don't find yourself thinking that if you're in the middle of a terrible crisis where maybe, your neighbor or neighbors have not eaten in 7 days and you have just enough food for your family. I'm also an advocate of charity. I like to add to my preps so that I can help in addition to taking care of my family. But some people may not be able to do that. You cannot expect that of everyone. So if you find yourselves in a situation where, there's a few people that want to cause you harm and your family harm to take what you got, then you have to think about that as well. So that ought to be, on your list of things to get and things to do.
Most definitely. And I love the analogy that you brought up in the beginning of the show. It says, if you live, let's say, in an apartment complex with 40 families and you're the only family that has prepped, where's everybody going? It's not just going to be one.
Where are you going?
It's
time to bug out.
That's what I'm saying is they're all going to come to you.
That's right.
So encourage people around you, not just you, but your neighbors and all that.
That's right.
And if you've watched, I don't watch it, but if you've watched something like, what's it called? The zombie show, The Walking Dead, or you've watched different shows, they're building communities to where people can support a group of people. That's what we're looking for here. So absolutely. Clover, do you have anything else that you want to bring up before we start sweeping the floor?
I don't think so.
Thanks again. Future in the Dark, 1999. Must be a mobile guy from Apple. Just love it. I love the 99 cents. It says, Merry Christmas. I'll check out the Patriot 1776 project. A great project, Patriot in the Dark. The 1776 project is awesome. Talk about heroes and American heroes. So go check out Patriot in the Dark's channel. He's got a great little series he's doing. You can nominate heroes for something special. So it's really awesome. Yeah, and Budget's right. OPSEC, people don't realize Operation Security, but OPSEC cannot be overemphasized. If you're going to prep, you may not want to tell everybody in the world that you've got a year. You might say, well, I've got about a couple weeks. So you might want to tell them exactly what you've got, because if they know, again, you're making yourself vulnerable.
That's a question that I get a lot. I get that question a lot. People ask me, why do you show your preps on YouTube? Everyone knows what you have. Very true. Well, I have two. I usually give two answers for that. The first one is that I truly feel that, showing people how to prepare and encouraging them to prepare is my calling. I love to do it. I enjoy doing it. And I get a lot of personal gratification out of knowing that people are preparing and doing some of the things that I've encouraged them to do. So that's a great thing. Absolutely. But the second thing is that when I picked this piece of property, I picked it strategically as far as where it's located, in contrast to where the city is, in contrast to what's north of me. During I don't really like calling it an SHTF, but I'll call it during an SHTF, people are not going to come towards the direction of where I live. They're going to go away from the direction of where I live, because when people are going towards something, it's because they know that there's resources there. And there's, like, north of where I live, there's really no resources at all. There's like one small 2-pump gas station about 5 or 10 miles north of where I live, and that's it. There's nothing. So everything that has anything to do with food, with gas, with anything that you need to live is all south of me. So that's why I tell people, I said, I'm not worried about that. First of all, I'm a person of faith, and I feel that if it's my time, it's my time. That's all there's to it. Number one. But I'm not really worried about people coming to where I am. Does it concern me sometimes about that Lone Ranger that's a kind of nutty guy that spots me, that might watch my channel and then try to follow me home? Sometimes, yeah, but that's why you have an EDC, right? So yeah, I mean, OPSEC is very important.
We live on top of a mountain here in Arkansas, and it's
that's awesome. Yeah, that's great.
And, the road by our house, hills.
Yeah, just cover your avenue of approaches. Yeah, absolutely.
We're the high ground. So if anyone does come along, good luck.
Yeah. So I'm not very concerned with that personally. And plus, let me tell you what, man, the people that live in this area, the people that live in Alaska so far throughout my experience, man, they're awesome people. I love living up here. And the main reason that I really enjoy living here is because of the people. That's the first and foremost thing.
And I live in a rural area. There's not a town of 15,000 people. Clover lives in a more rural area of Texas. And I think if you ask people that live in big city, I'm from Dallas, so I grew up in the big city. Yeah. But live in a rural, it's different kinds. I mean, it's a different kind of lifestyle, a different way of thinking. So I think that people that live in a more of a rural area are more likely to, one, be prepping themselves, but two, they're going to help each other out just naturally, just the way it is.
That's the way it is here. Yeah. So, I mean, I say that as far as OPSEC, be very careful. don't just go and talk to someone about prepping, just off the bat. Hey, are you a prepper? I'm a prepper. No, if you want to find out whether they're in line with your ideology, then drop a few seeds. Hey, I heard about that storm that happened in the Midwest and knocked out their power for 3 weeks. Man, I'm thinking about getting a generator. What about you? Drop that seed and then leave it alone for a week or two, and then maybe come back and see if you can pick up on that conversation and, maybe take it somewhere else. I like to call it on my channel. I like to say, reach one, teach one, and repeat. If you can reach a person and then gain their interest and then teach them, and then that person can repeat that same process with someone else, it's the 6 degrees of separation. Eventually everyone will be doing it. So yeah, you just got to be careful. And if you tell someone about your preps, just make sure that it's someone you can trust, someone that you can trust with your life, really, because that's what you're trusting them with.
No doubt. Man, it's been awesome. We could probably go on for another 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, man. I always have fun, man. I always have fun doing these live streams because,
so many questions I have, so I'd love to have you back on soon, maybe after the holidays or something. But
yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Come on anytime. I mean, seriously, I think the chat's enjoying it. I think, and like you said, I think there are more people that prep, but didn't consider themselves preppers. They've already done certain things.
And that's okay.
They didn't realize it. Like, I do that, so that's kind of cool.
You don't have to call yourself a prepper. Yeah, actually, I think maybe I'll come up with I don't really sell t-shirts on my channel or anything like that, but maybe I think I'll do a t-shirt and say, you don't have to call yourself a prepper, but prep or something like that.
And I want your second shirt. I know what your second shirt needs to be, because you'll sell it. Reach one, teach one, repeat. That's a great
I know. I'm working. When I first started my channel, someone asked me about, hey, you should make a t-shirt so you can sell. I'm like, so I went on what's the name of that t-shirt place that everyone uses?
I use Spreadshirt. There's one called Teespring. But I use
Teespring. Yeah, Teespring. Okay, so I went on Teespring and I made a t-shirt that's terrible. All right, and I never really advertised it because I saw how much it was. And I think for just a bare bones, if you make like $1, which I don't care about making money off of it, but it's like almost $20, right? And here I am thinking, I'm like, you know what? I'm telling people to prep. I have a series of videos that I call payday preps, where every payday I go out there and I'm like, hey, listen, man, for $20 you can prep this much. I'm like, you know how much rice you can get with $20?
For a t-shirt? Yeah. No,
I was like, for $20 you can get 80,000 calories worth of food. How can I tell people to buy my t-shirt instead of going out and buying 50 pounds of rice?
Fair point. But if you ever do a t-shirt, I think the reach one, teach one, repeat would be a phenomenal shirt. I really do.
Yeah. Somebody actually just sent me man, let me show it to you. Let me see if I have it here. Yeah. Someone actually sent me a Christmas present, so no one's seen this yet. And I think I'm going to make it into a t-shirt. That's this right here. Oh, let me see.
Let me do this. Hold on. Here we go.
Can you see that?
Oh, man, that's awesome.
On the top, you see that it says reach one, teach one, repeat.
I love it. That is awesome.
So I'm thinking that I'm going to see if I can get their permission so I can make that into a t-shirt. So because a lot of people ask me about it, I'm like, man, I just don't feel comfortable, charging $20 or $25 or whatever it is. But if people ask for it and it does help to spread the word, then that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Blue Tenton's out there. It says AP is so awesome and new to this channel. Thanks for coming over, Blue. A lot of people are out there saying, and YouTube is a big place. Huge place. A lot of people saying, man, how did I never heard of Alaska Prepper and all that? Once again, there are so many niches that are out there. There are millions of people out there creating content that you'd never heard of. And that's a cool niches,
If you don't mind me plugging this. I'm not really plugging my channel, but one of the things that
all you want.
one of the things that I like about, first of all, my channel has a great community. I mean, the people that make up the Alaska Prepper community, man, they are such great people. I mean, I've seen several times when someone needed help and they mentioned it on the chats, and everyone corralled around them and were able to help them, like literally, like collecting things to send them to help them through their situation. And I'm not sure if you know this about the AP channel, but we do a lot of donations. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I was just on a food run to go and bring to the food bank. And before Christmas, probably sometime this week, I'll drop a quick video to show the people in our community that we went ahead and donate. We're going to donate about $2,000 worth of food to the food bank. And we do that on a quarterly basis. So about every 3 months or so, I take the money from a donation account that I set up. It's called Buy a Coffee for Charity. I take the money from there, and I usually match it or a little more. So this last time I took $1,000 out of there. I matched $1,000. We're going to give the food bank $2,000 worth of food. So the people in the community are great. You know, I'm not against the First Amendment. I love freedom of speech. I'm a patriot through and through. But one of the things that I do on my channel is that if you're coming there to troll, you're not going to stay there. Because, you know, the people there are really interested. I try to grow my channel organically. You know, I've gotten emails from companies that, you know, that guarantee you 10,000 viewers or 10,000 subscribers. I don't want that, because I wanted to make sure that we ended up with people in our community that are good people that want to be there. All right. And of course, we run across a troll here or there. Right. Sure. But yeah, our channel is really good. We do a lot of charity. And one of the things that I really try to stay away from is I try to inform people and not scare people. So I try to tell them, hey, listen, things may not be looking so good because of this, but I don't tell them the world is going to come to an end, you know, because it's not going to come to an end. You know, we may be facing challenges right now that are real concerning. However, we'll get through it. We always have. And I'm an optimist. And I think that in the end, we will be okay. It may be tough, but that's what prepping is for, is to get you from A to B. You know, as long as we make it through the crisis, then we succeeded in having a good preparedness plan.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love my mods out there. My mods are a mixture of patrons, but a lot of the mods I have to, if you're not a patron, to be a mod on my channel, this is going to sound weird because you know what I'm talking about. I have to have met you personally. It's just the way it is. It's just one of those things where if you're a patron or something like that and you've been around for a while, I can trust that you know what I'm looking for in a mod to control trolls or, you know, whatever. Right. Otherwise, I'll just sit to say, if I've met you in person and we've actually talked face to face, human to human, then yeah, I'm good with that. And it's just one of those things where it's one of those, I like meeting people face to face. So when I go to different shows and all that, and I'll meet a different person and say, hey, can I be a mod? Well, did you come meet me because you wanted to be a mod or you wanted to have a discussion? So you can find out, you know, how people really think. But it's interesting. And I know that Clover's out there is really jealous. He says, where are these companies that will guarantee you all of these views and all that? He says, send them his way. He will shill for anyone. So.
Yeah, I never knew that they existed. I mean, I've gotten at least a good half a dozen emails where you can actually purchase views and subscriptions and likes. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And let me see if I remember. I think it was like $269 for like 10,000 views and 1,000 likes and like 100 subscriptions. I'm like, why would anyone want to build a channel like that? I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. You know, that's absurd.
Yeah. Now, midnight is true. I do have a restraining order against that fool. So he cannot get within 500 feet. No, I was kidding. I would love, he's a chef up in Pennsylvania and great guy. And I would love to meet Travis face to face. You know, I have some really, really close. Like Clover, I met through YouTube. He's one of my best friends in this world, on or off YouTube. But I have met a lot of great people through YouTube that I've never met before, that I consider friends. So it's a cool thing. It really is. And
it really is. YouTube's really been a blessing to me, because I actually met one of my very, very good friends from YouTube. He was subscribed to me, and I was at Walmart. This was about a year and a half ago, maybe almost 2. I was at Walmart, and you know when you like almost crash carts with someone else when you're taking a corner?
Sure.
Well, he was with his wife, and it was just me. I was actually shopping for the Battered Woman shelter. We were doing a donation, and we almost banged into each other, and he looked at me like he knew me. And I didn't know him. Yeah, I didn't know him. I never met him or his wife before. And he looked at me, and I'm like, excuse me. And he said, are you Alaska Prepper? And I'm like, you got me. You caught me. And you know what? We talked. We're the best of friends, man. Me and his family get together almost every weekend or every other weekend, you know. So we're like family now. So, you know, YouTube in a way has been kind of a blessing that I've met a lot of really good people who are now really good friends. So if anything, it's at least done that, you know, to better my life, I guess you could say.
Oh, I have met some phenomenal people, and people that are very dear to me. I have a very, 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 very small inner circle. I have a bigger outer circle, but I have a very small inner circle. And that dude right below us, Clover, we met in another YouTube chat 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago. We had both just started out on, we both had like less than 100 subscribers. We just started. We were on somebody else's live stream. We started talking back and forth in a chat, and then we started talking more and more. And it's ever since then, you know, and people call the bromance and all that. I really don't give a shit. He's a very dear friend of mine, and I love that guy. And we met through YouTube, and it's really cool. Our families, you know, we've met.
Yeah.
We go to a SHOT Show. We go all over the place together and stuff, and we stay in the hotels rooms together and all that. And I wouldn't have known him without YouTube. So now that I've kind of brought him up, I want to bring Clover in real quick and say, Clove, any closing thoughts or statements? And then go ahead and plug your stuff. Let us know what's coming up on your channel and your podcast as well.
You know, I fall back on what I said earlier. I mean, as far as closing this out, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And, you know, in a situation that, you know, you find yourself in a crisis or whatever, the more you know. I know it's been a little commercial thing that's been on TV for years, right? But yeah, seriously, knowledge is power. So learn as much as you can. If that means watching Alaska Prepper, if that means going and getting some books at the library, whatever it might be, learn as much as you can about everything that you can, especially things that can affect your day-to-day life. We were talking about medications and things like that earlier. Get into homeopathic books and treatments and things like that. You don't have to do that kind of stuff right now, but if you were ever forced into it, at least you would know what herbs you could grow, this or that or the other, to help you in a health situation during that crisis, so forth and so on. Yeah, thanks for Alaskan Prepper being on. It's been a really cool conversation.
It has been.
The only thing I've got to plug is I released a straight up shill video today. So
yes, you did.
And nobody's watching it compared to anything else, and it doesn't really surprise me because it is a straight up shill video. But if you are looking for some last minute gift ideas, everything, all that list I own, I have owned, I use, and I think other folks would probably enjoy it. So check that out if you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah. I saw the video pop up, and I knew that it was going to be released sometime in the next few days. And I saw it, and I was like, this is so out of the realm of what you do. But I think it's a great idea because it is a great concept, but it is an absolute shill video.
Well, so many other people have done it. I don't think I've ever done a video like that ever. Yeah. And I hesitated, doing something like that. And I thought, you know, I see, you know, Sarge, buddy with C4 Defense, and several other ones have put out some videos about, you know, gift ideas. And I thought, why not? And more importantly, and I'm glad you brought this up. and you and I think had a private conversation with this, and I mentioned this in the video, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to do the video. I had a conversation with a couple of viewers over the last week or so, that they said, "Oh, it's holidays; they're going to do all their shopping on Amazon." Blah blah blah. I said, "Well," I was kind of joking, like we always do. I'm like, "Hey, go through my Amazon store to do that, right?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm not going to buy anything you have in the Amazon store. I'm looking at other stuff." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. You don't understand. As long as you go through that creator's Amazon store, you're potentially helping that creator. You could buy, once you go through that portal, you could go to anywhere on Amazon and buy anything you want." So for those out there that are unaware, I just assumed that people understand how all that works, right? And I sort of took it for granted. And so if you're out there, now you know how it works, and now you know that you can passively support channels that have an Amazon influencer store, no matter what you buy off of Amazon. And I myself do that. I can't buy from myself through my own store. It does no good. So I use Ghost. I use Sarge. I use other people.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. And like I said, thanks for bringing that up. It's a great point. And, go check out anyone that has an Amazon influencer store. For mine, you can just Google Amazon Ghost Tactical and it'll give you a link. You can Google Amazon Clover Tack. If Alaska Prepper, I don't know if you've got an influencer store on Amazon. If he does, just Google Amazon Alaska Prepper. Utilize people, and it doesn't cost you a thing. It's just one of those that if you're gonna shop on Amazon, which everyone does, different levels of buying, but usually everyone's shopped at Amazon. Utilize a creator that you enjoy, and that's a way that you don't have to send them money or anything. You don't have to, it's not come out of your pocket. You can support them just by doing your normal shopping. So, Clover, as always, buddy, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you very much. AP, I want you to bring you on. I want to give you some time to not only finish up any closing thoughts, but go ahead and prep your channel, prep up any projects that you have coming up, anything that you want to get out to the audience. Go ahead and let them know what it is.
Well, first I want to thank you very much, man. I've had an awesome time, and I'm not just saying that, I mean it. And I'll come on anytime you want me to come on. I think this was a lot of fun.
You've got an open invite, bro. You got an open invite.
Just I'll tell you what, if you like after the holidays, send me an email and we'll get together again, man. Like I said, I love coming on other people's channel because it's a lot of fun. I haven't done a collaborative interview with anyone that I haven't enjoyed, and I've really enjoyed this one. So thank you very much for having me on. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. The only thing I am going to plug is that, have you ever done a flashlight video where you review a flashlight?
I've done flashlights, but in an EDC kit supply. I refuse to work with Olight. Clover and I both had an opportunity to work with the Olights of the world. And I just no.
I'm a
streamlight guy.
Yeah. The reason I bring that up is because people hate flashlight review videos. They're like, "Why are you doing a flashlight review video? You sell out, right?" But one of the things that I do whenever I review something for anyone, if somebody sends me a product that I didn't pay for and I review it for them, I always tell them, you have to give me at least 2 more so that I can give them away. So I don't accept money. I just accept the extra product so that I can give it as a prize to one of the community members. So if anyone is interested, go and watch my last flashlight review video, which was actually a really nice flashlight. It's this one right here. It's the Through Night T2020. But the thing about that video is that it's the entry video to what I like to call my December holiday bash giveaway. And I am having every December since I started the channel, I've had a, really nice giveaway to give back to the community. And this year's giveaway is going to be epic. And all of the things that I'm giving away are on that video. So if you like to enter to win anything from a reverse osmosis filtration system to a $4,000 watt generator, go ahead and watch that video, subscribe, like, and leave a comment. And the instructions are on the video. They're not crazy instructions. They're just do this, leave a comment saying this, and you're entered to win. So, I'm not saying that to try to buy subscribers. It's just that I like to give back to the people that allow me to do what I'm doing now, because just as well as me that if you don't have any viewers, then you don't really have a channel. You're just talking to a brick wall. So it's just a way of me to show my appreciation to all of the people that have helped me to get where I am today on YouTube. So yeah, go check that out. And I'm also going to be giving away 2 of the flashlights too. So
awesome.
because the company gave me an extra 2 to give away. So, but yeah, on top of that, there's a lot of other giveaways, and I don't want people to come over to our community just to win a prize or so. The most valuable part of the Alaska Prepper channel is the community. I have learned a lot more from my community members than what I have offered to them. So if you want to join a community of like-minded people that are kind to each other and don't kick each other down, but help each other up, that's exactly what we are. So absolutely. Again, thank you very much, man. I really appreciated being here, man. I had a lot of fun. And for all of your viewers out there, listen, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope that you guys get everything you asked for and more. So Merry Christmas to everyone.
Yeah, and like I said, I had a blast. Thanks for coming on. And you've got an open invite, bro. I will hit you up after the New Year's over.
Yeah, absolutely.
For January. It's interesting you're talking about the community and the prepper community and the gun community. A lot of people are in both.
Yeah,
but they're very good people and a lot. And I love the fact that you talk about without the viewers and all that, you'd be talking to yourself. And I feel the same way. I know Clover does the same. So thank you to everyone out there. As far as the channel, I've got a video coming out either tomorrow or Thursday, and then always I'll have one coming out the weekend. But the video tomorrow or Thursday, if you're here listening now live or you're listening in podcast form or replay, you're going to get a heads up. But I talk about finding a charity for Christmas. And if you've got $5, $1, $10, whatever, $5 means something different to everybody. For somebody, it might be a penny. To some people, $5 can feed a couple of kids for the night. So whatever you have to give, if anything, go find a charity. And we're big here on veteran charity organizations. But go find something to give to that someone's less fortunate. But I like to bring up veterans in this time of year, and AP knows what I'm talking about. When you're overseas during the holidays, it's not always fun. You miss your family, you miss your friends, and you're with your other family and you're with your other friends, but it's not quite the same when you're downrange and you are there, protecting our flag and our way of life and our people. Sometimes the sentiment of thank you gets lost. So I try to sit there and say, if you've got $5 or $1 or $10 or $100, whatever it is that you are able to give, try to go find a charity that works with veterans, but more importantly, active duty deployed military. That's why, like I said, all the super chats from this, we raised a bunch of money tonight, well over $100, maybe closer to $200. But all of Toys for Tots is great, 2020 G23. But like tonight, all the super chat money tonight is going towards Operation Gratitude. And this literally does care packages for deployed military personnel to get them there for Christmas, so that as many people as they can get a care package to will be able to open something up for Christmas. And you can put a whatever. So all the money we're going to raise tonight in super chats is going to go to that. If you can't, then here it is, man. If you've got $5, go and get a pair of socks. Go and get, oh hell no, bro, no. So
that's for charity, isn't it? That's for charity, man.
I appreciate you, bro, and that's
thank
awesome.
you. Hey, thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that, man. That's that's nothing.
No, it's just,
I was downrange too, and I know exactly what you're talking about.
And sometimes it's this fact of getting the toothbrush, socks, toothpaste, beef jerky. I mean, it could be something as simple as a month-old magazine like Sports Illustrated. It doesn't matter. Getting something from home or from someone, and I'll even say this, if you've got $2, okay, you have $2, you can go and buy a thank you card at Walmart and go down to your local recruiter and say, I want to send this thank you card to a deployed military personnel overseas for Christmas. Give it to them. They'll figure out who to get it to. They'll send it for you. Just a thank you card. You have no idea. A care package, even a thank you card from some random American. That's what it's all about. It's just someone that they don't know. Send them a care pack that takes the time out of their lives to spend a couple dollars and say thank you. It means the world to people, and you really don't know how much it means until you've been there. So get out there, support any veteran-owned business, and if you can go buy the supplies for that care package from a veteran-owned business, that's even better. You can find a lot of stuff at the Army Navy surplus store, old wool socks, thermal stuff, anything and everything that you can think of. You can buy that stuff for a couple bucks at a surplus store. Box it up, take it to the recruiter and say, I want to send this to someone downrange or someone overseas. Can you take care of this for me? They'll take care of it for you. And someone's going to get a really cool Christmas present that they may not have had. So thank you so much, AP. Appreciate you. Thanks to everyone out there, not only for the super chats, awesome, but everyone out there that's been participating. This has been a wonderful, not only discussion between me and Clover and AP, but the chat was a phenomenal discussion. There are people that are new to the channel that probably came over from watching you, that came over and watched this, that were new to my channel, that they kind of met some new people. And I'm encouraging anyone that watches my stuff and Clover stuff to go check out Alaska Prepper if that's something that you're interested in. He's got a great community over there. So we need to start intertwining and meshing all of our.
That's what it's all about. That is what it's all about, man.
Absolutely. And JMA is former Marine as well. He said that he got one and it was an amazing, it made his year. And it's just, it's one of those, Blue 10 says when he's on deployment, I was excited about getting a care package. And like I said, it's something as simple as a package of beef jerky and a pair of socks. That's all it needs to be. Or just a pair of socks or just a thank you card. It's really what it's all about. So guys, thank you so much.
It really brings up people's morale. I know we're going to take off, but let me go ahead and share this real funny moment. Do you know what brown bread in a can is?
I'm sorry, what? Brown bread in a can?
Yeah, have you ever heard of brown bread in a can? Well, it's this sweet bread that actually comes in a can.
Okay.
When I was deployed, I never heard about that before. Never ever heard it before. When I was deployed, I got a package and it had a can of brown bread in a can. I'm like, what in the world is this? Bread in a can? I've never heard of that before. Well, I opened it and I tried it, and it's brown bread in a can. And it's like a molasses flavored bread that's actually in a can. And I loved it. And I showed it to everyone in my office. I was like, look at this, man, bread in a can. But the reason I'm saying that is because opening up that darn can of bread made my day. Now I have that brown bread in a can in my pantry because I love it. And I remember the very first time that I ever tried it. And it's because someone had the forethought and the charitable heart to put a package together and send it to a troop, any troop downrange. So,
and the cool thing about it is if you send it to someone that, it's one thing, but if you're just sending it to some random, say, hey, send it to whoever, like they're getting a package from someone they don't know. And they're like, wow, someone took the time out of their life to put this together, and I got it. I mean, it's amazing. It really is. It's a great feeling. There's not a better feeling in the world, honestly, than to get something that you weren't expecting from someone you don't even know. It's a wonderful thing. So the chef out there says kind of like sweet pumpernickel. So
it is. It is. Yes, it's a little on the sweet side, but it's good. You have to have a liking for molasses if you eat that.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. I had to might go find some just to see, because that might be interesting. If you want to send a care package, you can go over to military.com. I suggest you do that, and they will have up there, just search for care package. They'll have a list of stuff that you can and stuff that you cannot send, like aerosol cans of any kind of shaving cream, hairspray, alcohol, drugs, obviously, but like aerosol stuff. But they give you ideas that maybe stuff that you may not have thought of. You can go over to Operation Gratitude, and they'll kind of go you through the list of stuff that you can put together yourself. So there's a lot of stuff that people would never think about. People don't think about socks. Really, they don't think about socks. Socks are huge over there. Yeah. G23, man, $50. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. You guys are going to make a lot of men and women over there very, very happy. So thank you so much. And man, it's amazing, the people over here. And you have a lot of great people in your community, but it's nice to know that when you do a call of action, people step up and all that. So thank you so much for AP for coming on. Like I said, we'll have you back anytime you want to come on. Thank you guys for watching live, both on the Facebook and YouTube. Really appreciate you. If you're watching in replay or listening in podcasts on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, all of those things, thank you so much. Go check out Alaska Prepper over on YouTube. Go check out Clover Tech on YouTube. There have been a bunch of people that are in the chat that are content creators, Budget Guns and Gear, Patriot in the Dark. I think Sarge is out there, C4 Defense, G23 does a chat. Man, I'm gonna piss some people off. Stan from SS Pawn over in Nebraska owns a gun shop and pawn shop in Nebraska. If you need guns, check out SS Pawn. He's a great dude. Man, Gizzard Gary was out there. I mean, there's just so many people out there. Go check out people in this chat. There's a great community. The gun people are not what maybe you think they are. They're not the guys that you're going to see on TV that are looking to overthrow the government. We're normal people. We have normal jobs. We live every day. We coach baseball, softball, soccer, basketball with your kids, go to church and all that with you. We just happen to take our freedom seriously. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. Merry Christmas. We will see you next week. This is not going to be the last time you see us before Christmas, but if we don't see you next week, guys, have a very Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Have a very safe New Year's. Enjoy your family. Enjoy the freedoms. This year has been such a wickedly weird year in so many ways. Remember that we are the greatest country in the world because of who we are as a people. So enjoy your family, enjoy your freedoms. Say thank you to a veteran. Say thank you to any personnel that are active duty that you know. Make sure that you know that they know that you're thinking about them. Anyways, just enjoy each other. Enjoy being around your families and friends. There's nothing better than being around your loved ones. And mostly everyone can come around over Christmas. Beautiful, beautiful thing. Enjoy it. We will see you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening and replay and in podcast. We'll see you soon. Semper Fidelis.